Millennium TV. 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 Millennium TV. We mean business. Millennium TV. 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 Millennium TV. We mean business.
A very good morning to you. Welcome to Millennium Kwacha, your first and your favorite business breakfast show. It's a jam-packed show. We're going to make sure that you have an amazing, amazing time. I am Constance Namwinga, your host, and of course I'm with my co-host for Shingongo. Good morning.
Good morning, Constance. How are you?
I'm fine. How's your morning so far?
Great.
Awesome. We do have a jam-packed show. Lots of interviews coming to you. We're going to have a lot of topics that we want to discuss with you, so do stay tuned for that one. But right now, we go straight into the news updates. Okay, so in local stories, President Edgar Lungu mourns the death of his Tanzanian counterpart, John Magufuli. Health Minister Dr. Jonas Chanda warns that COVID-19 is far from being over. In international news, world leaders pay tribute to late Tanzanian President John Magufuli. Now, President Edgar Lungu has expressed sadness at the death of Tanzania's President John Magufuli, who died from a heart complication on Wednesday. President Lungu has described his Tanzanian counterpart as a fearless leader who sacrificed his life to serve the less privileged and transformed his country. The head of state says the leadership and wisdom of Mr. Magufuli will be greatly missed by everyone. And since his ascension to power, President Magufuli has been widely perceived as a hard-working leader who has been leading his country on the path of success. 2 weeks prior to his death, President Magufuli disappeared from the public, a development which sparked rumors about his health. The Zambia Information Communication Technology Authority, ZICTA, says it is collaborating with the ministries of both general and higher education to enhance information communication technology ICT services across the country. ZICT Corporate Affairs Manager Ngabo Nankonde notes that most schools, especially in rural areas, have been lagging behind in the development of the ICT sector when they should instead be in the forefront of the implementation process. Ms. Nankonde explains that the authority is giving out computers to selected schools that have the conducive environment for the efficient operations of the machinery. She adds that there is need for the remaining schools to ensure that they install electricity and ensure that security is enhanced at their various schools to safeguard the equipment once they get it. Health Minister Jonas Chanda says the country is anticipating a third COVID-19 wave in June and July when the weather becomes cold. Dr. Chanda says with the number of countries reporting cases and mortalities, it is clear that the epidemic is still far from over. The minister says this is an indication that the population is still at risk of infections. Dr. Chanda says in the past year alone, the country has recorded 2 waves of the pandemic, with the third wave anticipated in the coming cold months, hence the need for adherence to preventive measures. And Dr. Chanda said in the last 24 hours, the country has recorded 387 COVID-19 cases out of 6,381 tests conducted and 5 deaths. Moving on to international news, various world leaders have joined Tanzanians in mourning the death of President John Pombe Magufuli. President Magufuli died on Wednesday from heart complications at a hospital in Dar es Salaam, according to Tanzania's Vice President Samia Suluhu. Mr. Magufuli had not been seen in public for more than 2 weeks, and rumors had been circulating about his health. Opposition politicians said last week that he had contracted COVID-19, but this has not been confirmed. Mr. Magufuli was one of Africa's most prominent coronavirus skeptics and called for prayers and herbal-infused steam therapy to counter the virus. The vice president has since announced the 14 days of national mourning and that flags would fly at half-mast. Still in international stories, an expected reduction in the UK's COVID vaccine supply in April is partly due to a delay in the delivery from India of 5 million Oxford AstraZeneca doses. The shipment produced by the Serum Institute of India has been held up by 4 weeks, the BBC has been told. Housing Secretary Robert Jenrick said neither a single factory nor a country was responsible for the supply issues. The Department of Health insists it is still on track to offer a first dose to all adults by the end of July. NHS England warned of a reduction in supply in April in a letter to local health organisations on Wednesday. The Scottish Government says it was seeking clarity from the UK Vaccine Task Force on future supplies, while the government in Wales and Northern Ireland said they were examining how their own vaccine programmes would be affected. That's it for international stories.
In the world of sports this morning, Chipopolo has secured an international friendly date against Sierra Leone in the build-up to their AFCON 2021 Group H qualifiers against Algeria and Zimbabwe. FA's General Secretary Adrian Kashala said that the friendly match will be played in Lusaka on the 22nd of March. The game will be a 21-hour kickoff and will be played at National Hero Stadium in Lusaka. The game will be Chipolopolo, who hosts defending AFCON champions Algeria at the same venue on the 25th of March at 21 hours in their final Group H home match. Thereafter, Zambia will travel to Harare to play Zimbabwe in their closing Group H qualifier. Chipolopolo are bottom of Group H with 3 points, one behind third-positioned Botswana. Zimbabwe are second on 5 points, while Algeria have 10 points and have qualified to defend their title in Cameroon with 2 matches to spare. In international sports, Jose Mourinho apologized to the Tottenham fans and said his players failed at the basics of life after they threw away a 2-0 lead to be knocked out of the Europa League by Dinamo Zagreb. A second leg display described as diabolical and a disaster by their ex-player and manager Glenn Hoddle saw Spurs eliminated in the last 16 in Croatia after extra time. A hat-trick did the damage, reversing the comfortable lead Mourinho's side had built in last week's first leg, prompting Spurs goalkeeper Hugo Lloris to call the performance a disgrace. That's it for sports news. Moving straight into the money markets for this morning. Zambian Kwacha was trading at 21.97 against the US dollar, 30.612 against the British pound, 26.19 against the euro, and 1.48 against the South African rand. Now, the South African rand depreciated to 14.8 against the greenback as spiking treasury yields boosted the dollar following the US Federal Reserve's positive outlook on economic growth and pledge to keep interest rates near zero for years to come. On the domestic front, there are concerns that a slow vaccination rollout program and more intensive electricity outages might derail an incipient economic recovery. Now, the British erased early gains to fall below 1.395 after the Bank of England left monetary policy unchanged and failed to signal any increase in the central bank's bond in the coming months. Earlier this week, the Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey said that the UK economy would contract by 4% in the first quarter from the same period last year and by 19% compared to the first 3 months of the year 2019, and that inflation would remain below the 2% target but would rise temporarily due to the public support measures. Sterling hit a 3-high hit of 1.41 in late February, supported by hopes for a quicker economic recovery in the UK due to the continued success of the vaccination rollout program coupled with massive fiscal and monetary stimulus packages. The euro traded around 1.19, not far from an over 3-month low of 1.184 hit on the 9th of March after European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde said that the central bank might need some time before the recently agreed acceleration in the pace of bond purchases. These remarks followed the central bank's decision last week to boost the pace of money printing to bring yields down and support the Eurozone economic recovery. Elsewhere, investors continued to monitor the slow pace of COVID-19 vaccination in the EU and its impact on Europe's economic recovery. Finally, we check the weather. We begin with the capital city, Lusaka. It will be partly sunny and beautiful. Temperature currently stands at 25 degrees Celsius, but expected to climb to 26 in the afternoon and drop to 19 degrees Celsius in the evening. Copperbelt in Ndola will be comfortable with intervals of clouds and sunshine. Temperature currently stands at 26 degrees Celsius, but expected to climb to 27 in the afternoon and drop to 18 degrees Celsius in the evening. In the east, Chipata, we experience intervals of clouds and sunshine with thunderstorms in parts of the area this afternoon. Temperature currently stands at 27 degrees Celsius, but expected to drop to 25 degrees Celsius in the afternoon and further drop to 20 in the evening. Finally, our tourist capital, Livingstone, will be pleasant with intervals of clouds and sunshine. Temperature currently in Livingstone stands at 29 degrees Celsius, but expected to climb to 32 degrees Celsius in the afternoon and drop to 21 in the evening. That's it for the news update at 7. Don't forget, you're watching Millennium Kwacha. We're coming to you live from Namwinga studios right here in Lusaka. Now, next week we are preparing Financial Literacy Week. The whole week will be Financial Literacy Week, and in the studios today we'll be joined by Blessings Kafwanka, who will share with us the importance of this week and how it pertains to our country's economic growth. Later on, also we'll discuss with the marketing guru Kamiza Chikula, who will be joining us on set to talk about his journey as a marketing guru. So much packed up on the breakfast show. After the break, we check what's happening in the newspapers.
It is packaged to perfection, trending topics that we will be discussing to make sure you know exactly what's happening in the world of social media and, of course, our very own country.
Exactly. We don't just limit ourselves to the country, but we also move across the borders with the best in international news, policy making. We also bring experts to bring to you right information right here on The Breakfast Show.
And if you've got questions, we got you covered too. Like we said, we're on Facebook, so comment, leave your questions. We will be able to answer them. And if we can, trust me, we're going to get somebody that can.
Yeah, join us every day, Monday to Saturday.
It's Constance and Paul.
Oh, Paul and Constance.
No, definitely Constance and Paul.
Paul and Constance.
Definitely Constance.
Paul and Constance. 7 to 9. Still watching Millennium Kwacha, your first and only business breakfast show, coming to you live from Namwinga studios right here in Lusaka. I would also want to find out how much you know about the Financial Literacy Week, which will be having the whole week from Monday to Saturday next week. Of course, we have Blessings Kafwanka who will be coming to talk to us about that. But for now, we check straight what is happening in the papers. We begin with Constance.
Okay, with the Daily Nation, we have in the headlines, 825 million United States dollars railway deal halted. We also have MPs haunted by their carelessness over grade 12, says Kabimba. Goat lying idle in Rufunsa, and Kambwili apologizes to Lungu. In the sports section, we have triple hopeful ahead of AFCON ties, and Inkwazi Queens set for new season. In the Daily Mail.
No need for change. Government is meeting people's expectations. Lungu. 5 universities banned. Kambwili apologizes to Lungu. 6 reconciliation. Woman nabbed over attack. Lungu mourns practical Magufuli. And the inspirational note in the Daily Mail, my favorite part, is pain is temporary. Quitting lasts forever. Lance Armstrong. The sports page of the Daily Mail, not good enough. Candid Kaindu says champions in Ghana out of depth. And Chipolopolo to face Leon Stars. Mayuka resurfaces in NAPSA training. Something from Kwazi Queens, winning not priority for Perry.
All right, moving on to the Times of Zambia. Tanzania mourns Magufuli. Zambia Zim sign industrialization MOU. And Chama calls for teamwork. We also have Forgive Me, Sir. This is by Kambwili. And battered NDC leader apologizes to Lungu. Work with PFEL invites other parties. As Lusaka PF gets new chair. UPND hopeful of violence-free poor. Lungu mourns Magufuli and pays tribute to King Zwelithini. And Gretov disqualifies most women candidates.
Moving
In the
on.
sports, I beg your pardon, sorry. In the sports section of the Times of Zambia, we have all we need is teamwork, Chama. Money is the difference, Kayindu. Chembo quits Lumwana Post, and ZA camps 8 athletes at OYDC. All right, let's get into the stories.
Let's begin with the Times of Zambia.
Okay, so in the Times of Zambia, right on the front page, we have "Forgive me, sir," says Kambwili. Embattled NDC leader apologizes to Lungu. So he says, "I unreservedly apologize to President Edgar Lungu. I pray he finds it in his heart to forgive me," embattled National Democratic Congress leader Chimba Kambwili has said. Mr. Kambwili apologized for having stepped on many toes and injured them, saying he was a believer in truthful reconciliation and forgiveness. Somewhere else it goes and says, I want to unreservedly apologize to the President of Zambia for the misunderstanding that he is a drug dealer as insinuated by some sections of the media. I am, however, reminded by Zambian singer Ephraim's song, Dimontufye, Limo Limon Danaka, and that to err is human but to forgive is divine, he said. What's your take on that?
Yeah, asking for forgiveness is normal, is noble. No one can be castigated for asking for forgiveness if you know you erred, especially. It is noble. Congratulations. Good thing to apologize and come back to your senses, especially if you erred. Of course, I'll be a bit blunt when it comes to politicians. I don't trust most politicians because most of them speak based on their need.
Yeah.
So they act based on their need. That's a problem with politicians, especially African politicians. Very few of them act out of conviction. They act out of their convenience. So even him, we know what is happening with him in the court cases. He's a convict. He's just on bail pending appeal. So he may easily go back to prison. So it's clear to even a child that this person is already convicted. So his chances to stay in the streets, to stay in society, are very limited. So he has to be very careful with how he treats the government of the day. So someone might think he's trying to seek reconciliation because he's trying to ensure that he doesn't go back to prison. That's one of the reasons I don't trust politicians.
No, I hear you. For me, I think it's just testament to how whatever that you want to report, whatever you want to talk about, whatever you want to say, you should have verified information, or you should be speaking from a place of privilege. And when I say you're speaking from a place of privilege, there are certain topics that you can talk about because you've gone through them, or because you know what a person might be going through if it's certain situations. But if you're going to accuse someone of something, or you're going to talk concerning something that was something that somebody else said, and they said bad things about a person, you really need to verify. And it's not just because he's a politician talking about the president. Just in our lives, we have become so quick to comment. You see a person post on Facebook, no, Abaniba Zed Kabolala, and really quick, hey, and what, you get, hey? And then most of the time you find just, now these times people have, awoken to the fact that I can sue you for defamatory words against me. I can take you to court and so on and so forth. So this should just be, instead of embarrassing yourself and then having to come out now and start apologizing and start whatever, I think you're better off safe than sorry. Do not comment on this until you have verified information, so that even when a person is coming at you and saying what, you'd be like, no, here's the proof. When I was talking, I was saying because of this, and this. And like where you find yourself in such situations. And like you have said, at this point, even if it's from his heart, it won't look like that at all. It will not look like that, which is sad, to be honest.
He's been sued by Findlay. We know so many court cases are surrounding Honorable Kambwili, so it's too much things surrounding him, and he's trying to be careful so that some of the things can be gotten rid of, which is not the noble thing to do. If you hear the point in what he was saying concerning the drug dealing of Findlay and President Edgar Lungu, produce the evidence, like you mentioned, instead of just insinuating. And now because you see that the storm is going against you, you want to quickly make amends. It also, one of the major things this does is that it also puts the followers in a very awkward position. Here's Paul and his team that were following this man and believing what you would say, then he now changes goalposts. Where do we take these following? It puts them in an awkward position. That's why we sometimes we just say we don't want to participate in this thing, we don't want to hear you, because sometimes we take people for granted, for a ride. Followership is not, don't take your followers for granted. You can just shift posts
anyhow.
and again.
And as leader, as leader, I think every time you make a statement, when you're standing in front, you are a leader, you know, political, church, at a company, whatever. As long as you are a leader, you need to understand that everything that you do, everything that you say, everything that you stand for will look like it represents what all your followers are for. You get my point? Like everything. Even when I say the silliest thing, I can come here and just be like, you know what? I think, I don't know, we should stop buying apples from wherever. It's going to look like that's the opinion of Millennium TV, because I'm standing in front of a lot of people, I'm on TV, and I'm saying I'm from Millennium TV, you know. So in that frame, every time you're about to open your mouth, make sure that what you're saying is you know, good things, actually. Like, try very hard not to say bad things when you're in leadership positions, because you do not know the ripple effects and what it will have on your people. Let's move on to another story.
5 universities banned. 5 private universities in Lusaka and on the Copper Belt have been ordered to stop operating by the Higher Education Authority because they allegedly not registered with the authority. HEA Corporate Communications Officer Bebo Musoba named the universities as Elphalet, Landmark, Shafat, and Yesbad in Lusaka, as well as Shalom in Kite. Very weird names. Mr. Musoba said yesterday that some private institutions are advertising fake scholarships for Zambians and demanding full payments after making enrollments. The students are forced to start looking for money to support themselves, despite being on the purported sponsorship. HEA will follow procedure to ensure that the right thing is done by the universities. Mr. Musoba also said Melbourne Institute of Applied Sciences in Lusaka has allegedly been offering unauthorized degree programs. There's been a lot of mushrooming of universities with all manner of names. The other time, not too long ago, there was a recall of doctorate programs that was made by the Higher Education Authority by a certain university that was offering doctorate program, and people got their doctor and they were even calling themselves doctor, and now like that is illegal. You put students in a very, very awkward position. Follow the procedure. We want universities to increase in the country, of course. We want education to be accessible by all, but also just ensure that you follow procedure when doing this thing. I don't know your take, Constance, on this.
I feel like these people should, when such universities are banned and are told to stop operating, the higher authorities should also make sure that they return the money of the students. I really feel like they should, because that would have been me having wasted my time, having wasted my money, you know, just to come and find somebody. This is somebody crooking me and stealing from me. You get my point? So I kind of feel like they should also make sure that their monies are returned to them, so that if they have to start all over again, start looking for school and all of that, they can even do that because they have money. Because this is hard-earned money for somebody to just come and tell you, oh, that money that you paid for was actually was actually fake. That's my opinion. The other thing that I would want to say, though, is even as we are looking into universities, and I feel like this is something that should be made, not necessarily mandatory, but we should start doing this. I've noticed in most Western countries, when you want to go to a certain university and you apply there, or even before you actually apply, you are allowed to contact the school and then go there for orientation, or not necessarily orientation, but just go there and view the place, see how they teach.
Done,
and
by the way.
It's done.
I've been to the University of Zambia, it's done. I've been to NIPA, it's done. Very.
Where you can just go and check out the place.
Orientation is part of.
No, not that orientation that they tell you to come to after you've been accepted. I just mean like I wake up today and I'm like, okay, I want my daughter to go to NIPA. I want to go and check out the place. Okay, I didn't know that. The more that if that is actually allowed and done and so on and so forth, then I feel like even as parents, let's make or not even parents, even as the students, as we're applying for a school and you see this school and you're like, go there and check out the place, and also, you know, go to the higher education authority as well and check if these places, you hear certain names and you're just going to be wondering, you know, so go and check if they're actually registered, if they're actually verified, you know, like find out all of that information before you giving someone money, or before you tell yourself that if you're not going to these universities that are already established that everybody knows about, you're going to some private institution that you just saw a building mushroom. I feel like do your research before giving the people the money, because you are going to find I remember this, I can't just remember the name, but they literally said, or everyone, like they shut down, and there were people that were in the 4th year, there were people that were in the 3rd year. When they shut them down, they said nothing was valid, which means even the 4th years, you know, we're no longer 4th years. You know, when you go to another school, you have to start all over again from 1st year, which is a lot of time wasted. So before you waste your time, before you waste your money, do your research. Do your research.
True. I agree with you. I think the onus really, like you've put, most lies on the parents themselves and the students. Ensure that, like I always say, for me, when you're investing your resources into something, ensure it is legit. Just ensure that you are not wasting your resources. Just make that as a rule for yourself, that your hard-earned cash, before you invest it into something, just ensure that you're not being duped. Your money is not going into waste. Still watching Millennium Kwacha, first and only business breakfast show. So much packed up for today. We will discuss more on the Financial Literacy Week that is coming up next week from Monday to Saturday. One of our resident financial analysts, Blessings Kafuanka, is already in the studios. He'll be joining us on set very soon. Don't forget, we want to hear also from you where you're watching the breakfast show from. Tell us. You are also live both on Facebook as well as YouTube. Drop us your comment and tell us some of the things you're picking from the show. We'll be back with Mr. Blessings Kafuanka on set after this break.
Who are we? What are we about? Say you want to learn about business or get latest news updates in business news, social and economic issues, stock exchange, latest exchange rates, and all financial matters, or you want to learn on how to manage your money from savings, banking, insurance, to maybe our new traditional way of doing things like village banking. And if you're like me, planning and constantly making sound financial decisions is essential. So I need to keep abreast with upcoming investments, taxes, technology, or entrepreneurship prospects. Interesting, right? So what if I told you by just one click you can learn from mining, agriculture, tourism, manufacturing services, and yes, entertainment industries. After all, the more you know about money, the better financially you will be. So who are we? What are we about? Millennium TV, your first business and financial news television channel. Catch us on Top Star, Channel 95, or follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Millennium TV, we mean business.
It is packaged to perfection, trending topics that we will be discussing to make sure you know exactly what's happening in the world of social media and, of course, our very own country.
Exactly. We don't just limit ourselves to the country, but we also move across the borders with the best in international news, policy making. We also bring experts to bring to you right information right here on The Breakfast Show.
And if you've got questions, we got you covered too. Like we said, we're on Facebook, so comment, leave your questions. We will be able to answer them. And if we can, trust me, we're going to get somebody that can.
Yeah, join us every day, Monday to Saturday.
It's Constance and Paul.
Oh, Paul and Constance.
No, definitely Constance and Paul.
Paul and Constance.
Definitely Constance.
Paul and Constance. 7 to 9.
TV. 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 Millennium TV. Women Business. Millennium TV. 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 Millennium TV. Women Business.
How do you build a brand that lasts for a lifetime? One of the things people struggle with is building a brand, whether you're selling clothes, whether you are into fashion, whether you're a chef. How do you build a brand that lasts? That's the question we are asking today on the Breakfast Show. We're coming to you live from Alongeka Studios, right here in the capital city, Lusaka. We're also streaming live both on Facebook as well as YouTube. I want to hear from you. Have you built a brand before? Have you seen people move from one brand to another? I've seen someone move from being a chef to being an accountant, and they keep changing. How do you build a brand consistently? I want to hear that from you. Of course, I'm told Constance has built brands, and she'll share with us how she has built that brand as well. But on this particular segment, we've been joined by one of our resident financial analysts, Mr. Blessings Kafwanka, who will share with us more next week. Just for our information, next week is Financial Literacy Week, Monday to Saturday, and we'll be talking all things financial literacy beginning from Monday. And just as a preview, a background to the financial literacy, he will share details on that. Welcome once again to Millennium Kwacha.
Thank you so much, Paul and Constance. It's been a while.
Yes, it's always a pleasure to host you here.
The pleasure is mine.
Great. To kickstart, what is, from your experience in the financial sector, what is the Financial Literacy Week about, and what is its relevance?
Well, firstly, I should say that it's good that we have this week that is coming up. And I think we've seen that in the past a number of financial institutions normally take advantage of this day to sell their products and also share various tips on how we can manage our finances better, either at a personal level, at a corporate level, whether you are a large business institution, you are a small business institution, or you're just starting up. I think we've seen that many organizations out there, they normally take advantage of this period to share that information. Now, I think financial literacy is a very important skill that each and every one of us need to have. You know, this is a skill that enables you to meet whatever goals, whatever objectives that you have. When you look at the way we organize our lives as individuals, we have various goals, we have various objectives, various things that we want to achieve, you know. But managing your finances, managing your personal finances or your finances within the context of a business is one of the most important things that you need to do for you to be able to attain your goals, you know. So financial literacy is basically possessing the skills and understanding the financial concepts that can help you to make better and informed decisions. And these are skills and concepts that each and every one of us should be able to understand. So as financial literacy, the Financial Literacy Week is starting next week, I think it's important that we should take a bit of some time to get to understand what these basics are and how best we can utilize them to manage our finances better.
Awesome. Now, when it comes to financial literacy, tell us, help us understand the knowledge gap that we have here in Zambia.
Well, this situation is not unique to Zambia. You know, we have seen that even just across the entire globe, in as much as this topic might appear to be a topic that we've talked about time and again, you get to see it in the media, TV, radio, newspapers, a lot of information being shared. But the thing is that not a lot of people have got these skills. Not a lot of people have got the understanding, you know, of how these concepts actually work, you know. And within the context of our nation, Zambia, I think in terms of the the number of people that do not have these skills, I think there are a lot of people out there, even just educated people. When you look at the way we manage our finances, you might be very educated, you have a degree, you have a diploma, a master's degree, but most of the times you find that when it comes to managing your finances at a personal level, at a corporate level, you need a bit of some training. You need to have a very good understanding of how it works. So the number of people that need financial training, financial literacy training, there are a lot of people out there that need that financial training. And that's the reason why all of us should be able to take advantage of this period to learn whatever is supposed to be learned.
I've seen during the past financial literacy weeks, mostly, like you mentioned, banking institutions taking a leading role. But one of the things I've seen, the gaps I've noticed, is even at individual level, family level. That is something most families would tell you they are not even aware that such even exists. I don't know, from your observation, how this has trickled down to the family, if we've made any progress.
Well, in terms of people being aware of the Financial Literacy Week and also the activities that take place during this period, I think we can do better. If you ask just an ordinary person on the street out there, if they are even aware that we have this Financial Literacy Week that is coming up, most of them are not even aware. You know, even during that period, you find that some people may not even be aware. You know, you're just seeing various institutions like banks, for example, they put up a desk here and they are giving out brochures and they're giving out information, selling their products, but most people will not really understand what is going on during that period. You know, so even at the family level, you find that the information that is required for the household, the head of the family, and also even the people that are within the family, including the children, we need to teach our children these things. You know, so you find that it's very common that in certain homes, people do not really understand the basics of financial literacy.
After understanding what you've just said, what do you think can be done? What more can banks do? What more can financial institutions do to get to family level and to get to more people?
I think this responsibility should not just be left to banks and financial institutions, because these corporate institutions exist for a purpose. They are there to make business, and even when we are going through this period, I think their primary focus is mostly to sell the products, the various financial products that they have to sell. So it all comes down to you and I as individuals. We need to endeavor to learn the various skills that we need to develop, so that even as we are going out there and we have these financial products that are being marketed to us, we should also be able to make better and informed decisions. When you understand the basics, like for example, the basic concepts of financial literacy, number one, you're looking at the aspect of budgeting. This is a very important aspect that enables you to take hold of your finances. You need to understand that particular aspect. The other aspect that you need to understand is the aspect of interest rates and also raising finances, sources of financing. How do you raise finances to be able to take care of your needs, to be able to finance whatever project you might have? If you want to acquire a property, you want to acquire, like for example, you also want to advance yourself in terms of your education. So whatever plan that you have, how do you raise finances? What alternatives are there? There are a number of alternatives that you have. So as we are going through this Literacy Financial Week, we have these financial institutions that will be marketing some of these products. They'll be telling you, okay, there is this loan that you can get. You can get a salary advance for a shorter period of time. You can also maybe open a fixed deposit account and put money in a fixed deposit account, and so many other products. So when you begin to understand these issues and you begin to look at them through the lens of what your long-term goals are, it will help you to be able to buy the appropriate product or invest in the appropriate product that the financial institutions might be selling. So there are a number of other basic financial literacy concepts, components that you need to master. Investing decisions. How do you go about investing? Saving is one of them. Understanding the difference between an asset and a liability. what could be an asset to you, Paul, could turn out to be a liability to me.
Yeah.
What could be a liability to me could be an asset to Constance. So these are some of the things that you need to be able to understand.
Awesome. I'm thinking of the viewer watching maybe from the remote part of the country and thinking they live their lifestyle from hand to mouth, and you're telling them about budgeting and financial literacy. Is that even relevant to them?
It is. In fact, if you are living hand to mouth, you need this information desperately. I've also been in those situations where when I look at the amount of money that I have on a regular basis, on a monthly basis, I feel this money is not enough. And there is so much that I would like to do.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to advance myself. I want to get a master's degree. I want to get a PhD. But I also need to secure the future of my children. I need to build a house. I need to buy a car. I need to pay school fees for my children. Should I pay school fees for myself for this higher qualification, or should I build a house? Which one should come first? And all of those issues. And it becomes difficult for you to do it if you have a limited revenue. You have a limited income stream. You feel you don't have enough. But when you begin to understand the various options that are available for you to manage your finances properly, you find that it becomes a lot easier. Like, for example, I will tell you that it's very difficult for you to build a house from your salary.
Yeah.
Okay. Of course, a lot of people will tell you, oh, I built my house, I just started with 1 block, or I started with 2 blocks, and now I have finished building my house. But it's extremely difficult. One of the alternatives that you have there is using what is known as debt financing, getting a loan from the bank. Okay, you can go to a bank and you get a loan for a certain period of time. It could be 3 years, it could be 5 years, and there are different types of loans that are offered. During this financial literacy week that we are going into, we will see a lot of these financial institutions telling us about some of those products. They are what they call security-based loans. Basically, these are loans that you can take if you've got property, you've got a house which you can use as security. Okay, it's a collateral-based loan. There are also non-secured loans which come with certain conditions. Okay, so if you feel your income is limited, but if you take advantage of this product that is being offered, where you can get money and then invest in that particular project, then it becomes a lot easier, because now you are compelled, even if your income seems to be limited, you are now compelled to be paying that financial institution. But then there are a lot of things that you still need to understand, because the alternatives are so many. You can go to a microfinance institution. You can go to a bank. Where do you go? Should I go to a microfinance? Should I go to a bank? So there are various advantages and disadvantages of doing the same. Like, for example, if you went to a banking institution and you take out a loan for a period of 3 years, the advantage that you have over going to a microfinance institution is that the cost of that money, the interest, is on a lower side. It's cheaper than getting it from a microfinance institution. But getting it from a microfinance institution could actually be faster and easier, and they could have flexible terms and conditions. But you go to a bank, they will ask you for certain things that you may not have. But a microfinance institution will probably even just ask for some of your household goods as security. What do you have in your house? You have a stove, you have a fridge. Okay, we can give you 5,000 kwacha. That might appear to be a small amount of money, but it is something that can help you to get ahead. You can buy a number of blocks, or you can even pay for a piece of land. I know some places out there where you can buy a piece of land for as low as 5,000 kwacha, or you can pay it as a deposit. So it helps you to get ahead.
Okay. Now, when it comes to the same financial literacy, and we go deep into the rural areas, they don't have banks, they don't have ATMs, why would it be important for us to take it to, that grandma way in the village who doesn't even have a mobile phone?
That's a very important question that you've asked, Constance. There is also an aspect of financial inclusion that comes in when we look at the question that you've just asked. We have a lot of our colleagues in rural areas that do not have access to some of these products that banks have to offer. You go into a remote area, you find that they don't even have a bank, so they cannot take advantage of that, But with the coming in of technology, I think it's becoming a lot easier, because there are certain transactions that you can now do using your mobile phone. And a good number of players that are coming onto the market, apart from just these telecommunication companies that are offering these mobile money transactions. I have seen that there are a number of other organizations that have come up as well that are providing this service, and you can access it using your phone, you know. But now, what we need to understand is that financial literacy goes beyond just going to a bank and utilizing their products. There are a number of other things that you need to understand, which that person in the rural area will need to understand. Like, for example, I talked about budgeting. It is something that you can do. You don't really need a financial institution to help you to do that. Okay, when you talk about investing and investing decisions, how do you go about making decisions to invest? What do you consider? How do you appraise various projects? You know, that is information which I think even, that's information that we can take even to the rural areas. Okay, it might appear to be complicated information, but believe me, it's not complicated information. It's something that I think we can be able to explain even to a lay person, somebody that is located in a rural area. They'll be able to understand, and they'll be able to use that information even as they go about their activities. If it's farming, they should be able to understand, oh, this is how much I've spent for me to have this yield, and this is how much I am expecting, and this is how I should utilize my finances so that I can make the most of it.
Awesome. I've got two last questions before Constance comes in. What would you want the Financial Literacy Week to look like for it to be a success?
For me, I would like information about financial literacy to be spread as much as possible. And I would like to see many people, I would like to see many institutions getting involved in this, aside from just the financial institutions, the banks, the Bank of Zambia, and others. We've seen these are the main players. You know, but ordinary people like you and I, you find that we are usually not interested in some of these issues. You know, but I think every one of us should be able to get involved. Personally, I normally do a lot of writing over financial issues, and I'll share some of this information freely. And I've received an overwhelming feedback from people that are not finance professionals. They just read and they say, oh, no, I never really knew about this issue. You know, I've had this problem with managing my debt, you know, and I've been getting deeper and deeper into credit. I'm a civil servant. I am owing the bank money, and I don't know how to get out of this problem. And from the information that we have shared, I think I've learned one or two things, and I'll be able to manage my finances better. So I would like to see a financial literacy week where all of us, you know, we should get involved. Yeah. And I'm glad that Millennium TV has brought up this topic. Millennium TV already is involved in the Financial Literacy Week. I would like to see even other media institutions having a program of this nature where we discuss these issues.
Awesome. My last question now is, you now as Blessings Kafaka how do you, even in the past, how do you ensure that your family also is they are conversant with finance-related matters?
We need to teach our children. We need to teach our family to understand these issues. You know, I've got small children, and they're always asking for things. No, Daddy, I want sweet. No, Daddy, I want this. I want that. They don't really understand that we have scarce resources. We have limited resources, you know. So from time to time, we need to make them understand and tell them, oh, okay, look, we cannot do all of these things that you're asking for. You have to choose whether we do one thing or we do the other, you know, and you have to choose what is important to you, what is important between this and that. And that is where we are going to spend your money, you know. And one thing that I've always endeavored to teach my children is that money does not just come from, like just dropping from above. You know, sometimes I go out with them and I get money from the ATM, and they're thinking, oh no, you've got a lot of money. No, but why are you saying you don't have money? Let's just go to the ATM and get the money, you know. But I try to make them understand you need to work for this money, you know. And most of the times I have my son comes to me, no, Daddy, what can I do for you? I want to buy ABCD, ABCD. Is there something that I can do so that you can give me something to buy this thing? And I think those are some of the lessons that we need to be teaching our children.
Awesome.
Okay, last question. We're in the 9 minutes, though. You've talked about children, and I'm curious, in your opinion, when is the correct time to introduce financial literacy, to introduce money to children?
My son is just 6 years old.
Okay.
I think from the moment they begin to understand that you need money to buy ABCD, you need to make them understand. There are ways in which you can tell them. You know, teach them about saving.
Mm-hmm.
You know, teach them about working to earn some money and spend it on something. Teach them about spending the little and limited resources that you have on what is important to you. You know, the other time my daughter was celebrating her birthday, and it's always been our culture to buy a birthday cake, and maybe you buy a few things here and there. And this time around, I told her, you know what, we cannot buy all of those things that we usually buy. We can buy a cake for you, we can buy a toy, or we can buy some books, or we can buy, you have to choose what is important to you. You know, so she had to think through what is important. But if I get a cake, we are going to eat it, and that will be it. No, I think I'll need a toy. You know, but what kind of a toy? You know, so that helps them to begin to understand that when you are spending your money, you need to know what your priorities are. What should you spend on first? What should you invest in? So we should start teaching our children at a young age, as soon as they are able to understand money. They understand that you need money to buy ABCD. We should start teaching them how to handle monies better.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. Blessings Kafanga, for coming to Millennium
Always
Kwacha.
a pleasure.
Great. Still watching Millennium Kwacha, your first and only business breakfast show, discussing a preview of the Financial Literacy Week, which comes up Monday to Saturday. Next week, we also want to hear from you how you are going to celebrate this Financial Literacy Week. What are some of the things that you put in place as a family to ensure that you are conversant with matters of finance in your family? Drop us your comments on Facebook or YouTube. You can also call us on 0975-740518. It's a fully packed show. We discuss marketing with the marketing guru, Kamiza Chikula. After the news updates at 8. For now, we go on a break. We'll be back on the other side.
It is packaged to perfection, trending topics that we will be discussing to make sure you know exactly what's happening in the world of social media and, of course, our very own country.
Exactly. We don't just limit ourselves to the country, but we also move across the borders with the best in international news, policy making. We also bring experts to bring to you right information right here on The Breakfast Show.
And if you've got questions, we got you covered too. Like we said, we're on Facebook, so comment, leave your questions. We will be able to answer them. And if we can, trust me, we're going to get somebody that can.
Yeah, join us every day, Monday to Saturday.
It's Constance and Paul.
Oh, Paul and Constance.
No, definitely Constance and Paul.
Paul and Constance.
Definitely Constance.
Paul and Constance. 7 to 9.
Mafingerings tikaleta kukuti kule ifike pa 500 gram or 450 gram even pa 400 flat gram mshia kule mngapeleke pa market.
When we are at school, we learn a lot of things. Let's say, for example, for the diseases which are there in the poultry. So for someone like me who has gone to school, it's easy for me to know if at all there are any diseases in the poultry.
We live love you being with us, and we love knowing that you are out there watching us. So do get interactive with us on Facebook. We are live on Facebook as we speak, live on YouTube as well. All you have to do is search for Millennium TV Zambia. You will be able to find us. Tell us where you are watching us from. We want to, read and even hear your voice. You can call us on 0975-740518. We get straight into the news updates. President Edgar Lungu mourns the death of his Tanzanian counterpart, John Magufuli. Health Minister Dr. Jonas Chanda warns that COVID-19 is far from being over. In international news, world leaders paid tribute to late Tanzania President John Magufuli. And now for the details. President Edgar Lungu has expressed sadness at the death of Tanzanian President John Magufuli, who died from a heart complication on Wednesday. President Lungu has described his Tanzanian counterpart as a fearless leader who sacrificed his life to serve the less privileged and transform his country. The head of state says the leadership and wisdom of Mr. Magufuli will be greatly missed by everyone. And since his ascension to power, President Magufuli has been widely perceived as a hard-working leader who has been leading his people on the path of success. 2 weeks prior to his death, President Magufuli disappeared from the public, a development which sparked rumors about his health. Now, the Zambia Information Communications Technology Authority, ZICTA, says it is collaborating with the ministries of both general and higher education to enhance information communication technology ICT services across the country. ZICT Corporate Affairs Manager Ngabo Nankonde notes that most schools, especially in rural areas, have been lagging behind in the development of the ICT sector when they should instead be in the forefront of the implementation process. Ms. Nankonde explains that the authority is giving out computers to selected schools that have the conducive environment for the efficient operations of the machinery. She adds that there is need for the remaining schools to ensure that they install electricity and ensure that security is enhanced at their various schools to safeguard the equipment once they get it. Still in local stories, Health Minister Jonas Chanda says the country is anticipating a third COVID-19 wave in June and July when the weather becomes cold. Dr. Chanda says with the number of countries reporting cases and mortalities, it is clear that the epidemic is still far from over. The minister says this is an indication that the population is still at risk of infections. Dr. Chanda says in the past year alone, the country has recorded 2 waves of the pandemic, with the third having anticipated in the coming cold months, hence the need for adherence to preventive measures. And Dr. Chanda says in the last 24 hours, the country has recorded 387 COVID-19 cases out of 6,381 tests conducted and also recorded 5 deaths. Moving on to international news, various leaders worldwide have joined Tanzanians in mourning the death of President John Pombe Magufuli. President Magufuli died on Wednesday from heart complications at a hospital in Dar es Salaam, according to Tanzania's Vice President Samia Suluhu. Mr. Magufuli had not been seen in public for more than 2 weeks, and rumors had been circulating about his health. Opposition politicians said last week that he had contracted COVID-19, but this has not been confirmed. Mr. Magufuli was one of Africa's most prominent coronavirus skeptics and called for prayers and herbal-infused STEM therapy, to counter the virus. The vice president has since announced the 14 days of national mourning and that flags would fly at half-mast. Now, unexpected reduction in the UK's COVID vaccine supply in April was partly due to a delay in the delivery from India of 5 million Oxford AstraZeneca doses. The shipment produced by the Serum Institute of India has been held up by 4 weeks, the BBC has been told. Housing Secretary Robert Jenrick said neither a single factory nor a country was responsible for the supply issues. The Department of Health insisted it's still on track to offer a first dose to all adults by the end of July. Now, NHS England warned of a reduction in supply in April in a letter to local health organizations on Wednesday. The Scottish government said it was seeking clarity from the UK Vaccine Task Force on future supplies, while the governments in Wales and Northern Ireland said they were examining how their own vaccine programs would be affected. That's it for international stories.
The world of sports this morning, Chipolo Polo has secured an international friendly against Sierra Leone in the build-up to the AFCON 2021 Group H qualifiers against Algeria and Zimbabwe. FAS General Secretary Adrian Kashala said that the friendly match will be played in Lusaka on the 22nd of March. The game will be a 21-hour kickoff and be played at the National Hero Stadium in Lusaka, Chipolopolo will host defending AFCON champions Algeria at the same venue on the 25th of March at 21 hours in their final Group H home match. Thereafter, Zambia will travel to Harare to play Zimbabwe in their closing Group H qualifier. Chipolopolo are bottom of Group H with 3 points, one behind third positioned Botswana. Zimbabwe are second on 5 points, while Algeria have 10 points and have since qualified to defend their title in Cameroon with 2 matches to spare. In international sports, Jose Mourinho apologized to the Tottenham fans and said his players failed at the basics of life after they threw away a 2-0 lead to be knocked out of the Europa League by Dinamo Zagreb. A second leg display described as diabolical and a disaster by the ex-player and manager Glenn Hoddle said Spurs eliminated in their last 16 in Croatia after extra time. A hat trick did the damage, reversing the comfortable lead Mourinho's side had built in the last week's first leg, prompting Spurs goalkeeper Hugo Lloris to call the performance a disgrace. That's it for sports. We move straight to the money markets for this morning. Now, money markets for this morning, Zambian Kwacha was trading at 21.97 against the US dollar, 30.61 against the British pound, 26.19 against the euro, and 1.48 against the South African rand. Now, the South African rand depreciated to 14.8 against the greenback as spiking treasury yields boosted the dollar following the US Federal Reserve's positive outlook on economic growth and pledged to keep interest rates near zero for years to come. On the domestic front, there are concerns that the slow vaccination rollout program and more intensive electricity outages might derail an incipient economic recovery. The British erased early gains to fall below 1.395 after the Bank of England left monetary policy unchanged and failed to signal any increase to the central bank's bond buying in the coming months. Earlier this week, the Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey said that the UK economy would contract by 4% in the first quarter from the same period last year and by 19% compared to the first 3 months of the year 2019, and that inflation would remain below the 2% target but would rise temporarily due to the public support measure. Sterling hit a 3-year high of 1.41 in late February, supported by hopes for a quicker economic recovery in the UK due to the continued success of the vaccination rollout program coupled with massive fiscal and monetary stimulus packages. Now the euro traded around 1.19, not far from an over 3-month low of 1.18 hit on the 9th of March after European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde said that the central bank might need some time before the recently agreed acceleration in the pace of bond purchases. These remarks followed the central bank's decision last week to boost the pace of money printing to bring yields down and support the Eurozone economic recovery. Elsewhere, investors continue to monitor the slow pace of the COVID-19 vaccination in the EU and its impact on Europe's economic recovery. And finally, we check the weather. We begin with our capital city, Lusaka. Will be partly sunny and beautiful. Temperature currently in the capital city stands at 25 degrees Celsius, but expected to climb to 26 in the afternoon and drop to 19 degrees Celsius in the evening. Ndola will be comfortable with intervals of clouds and sunshine. Temperature in Ndola currently stands at 26 degrees Celsius, but expected to climb to 27 in the afternoon and drop to 18 degrees Celsius in the evening. In the east, Chipata experienced intervals of clouds and sunshine with a thunderstorm in some parts of the area this afternoon. Temperature currently stands at 27 degrees Celsius, but expected to drop to 25 degrees Celsius in the afternoon and further drop to 20 in the evening. Livingstone, our tourist capital, will be pleasant with intervals of clouds and sunshine. Temperature currently stands at 29 degrees Celsius, but expected to climb to 32 degrees Celsius in the afternoon and drop to 21 in the evening. That's it for the news updates at 8. This is Millennium Kwacha, your first and only business breakfast show, coming to you live from our Longacre studios right here in the capital city, Lusaka. The question we are asking is, how do you build a brand that stands a lifetime? How do you build a brand, Constance? There are some people that are not living in compounds, right? Padia, ni Padia. Like she's branded herself that way. Mm-hmm. So the brand is not just about corporate people, but everyone. When you want some, not really, but when someone wants some top in Salaula, you know what, so that's a brand. But how do you build a brand consistently, successfully? That's a question we are asking this morning. I want to hear from you. Of course, we have a guru that will come and address this thoroughly. Kamiza Chikula is a big man in the industry. He'll be joining us shortly after this.
Who are we? What are we about? Say you want to learn about business or get latest news updates in business news, social and economic issues, stock exchange, latest exchange rates, and all financial matters, or you want to learn on how to manage your money from savings, banking, insurance, to maybe our new traditional way of doing things like village banking. And if you're like me, planning and constantly making sound financial decisions is essential. So I need to keep abreast with upcoming investments, taxes, technology, or entrepreneurship prospects. Interesting, right? So what if I told you by just one click you can learn from mining, agriculture, tourism, manufacturing services, and yes, entertainment industries? After all, the more you know about money, the better financially you will be. So who are we? What are we about? Millennium TV, your first business and financial news television channel. Catch us on Top Star, Channel 95, or follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Millennium TV, we mean business. Who are we? What are we about? Say you want to learn about business or get latest news updates in business news, social and economic issues, stock exchange, latest exchange rates, and all financial matters, or you want to learn on how to manage your money from savings, banking, insurance, to maybe our new traditional way of doing things like village banking. And if you're like me, planning and constantly making sound financial decisions is essential. So I need to keep abreast with upcoming investments, taxes, technology, or entrepreneurship prospects. Interesting, right? So what if I told you by just one click you can learn from mining, agriculture, tourism, manufacturing services, and yes, entertainment industries? After all, the more you know about money, the better financially you will be. So who are we? What are we about? Millennium TV, your first business and financial news television channel. Catch us on Top Star, Channel 95, or follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Millennium TV, we mean business.
How do you build a brand that lasts a lifetime? That's a question we are asking on the breakfast show this morning. I want to hear from you, whether you're selling fritters in the streets, or you are a banker, or you are a communication expert like one of the gurus that is on set with us today. How do you build a brand that lasts a lifetime? I want to hear from you. We're coming to you live from our Long Acre studios right here in the capital city, Lusaka. We're also live both on Facebook as well as YouTube. We're going to profile one person that the first time I sat under his lessons was at a Kokoliko event some time back. I can't remember the year. But I'm talking about Mr. Kamiza Chikula. Thank you so much, sir, for coming through on Millennium Kwacha.
It's great to be here. Thank you for the invitation. It's wonderful to finally come here.
Awesome.
I've seen great work being done, but it's great to be a guest.
Awesome, awesome. You are a guru of a lot of things, voiceovers. When you talk about communications and marketing, it's like you have them at the tips of your fingers. The first time I listened to you was at a Kokoloko event. I should have been at Radisson Blue.
Radisson Blue, the small dome.
Yes. 5 years, 6 years?
Close to that. It's about 5 years ago.
About 5 years ago.
Yes.
This man, the way he was talking, and apparently that's a video, I think that's also on YouTube, one of the videos that
Correct.
is on YouTube.
It is on YouTube.
Awesome. You've built your brand so well. For the sake of, I know there are very few that might not know you, but for the sake of the viewers that might not know, who is Mr. Kamiza?
I'm a person who likes to keep learning, so even the term guru is completely misplaced. I'm a student, a perpetual, eternal student.
You're trying to be humble.
No, far from it. It's a reality. I mean, that's this little success I've scored has been courtesy of continuously learning and continuously improving, and whatever I can pick up on my journey, I then apply localize it, personalize it, and adapt it to my best suited needs and make it happen. So with regards to who I am, I'm a 45-year-old Zambian male, married to one wife. I have 3 children, and I love to do all things communications and marketing. That is basically my lifeblood.
Awesome.
Awesome. What got you, though, into the line of communications? Was it just you noticed, I have a deep voice, let's start doing this? Or there was something that actually happened that said, okay, no, this is my line of interest, work, passion?
It's an interesting story, actually. My first port of call and my strongest desire was to go off and be in IT.
Oh, okay.
And my parents said no. It seems they saw something that I didn't see, because they told me in no uncertain terms, the only program we're going to allow you to do is Chartered Institute of Marketing. And I said, but no, I want to do IDPM at the time. And they said, no. And I said, no, but I insisted. And they said, well, it's our money. And today I'm grateful, eternally grateful to them for insisting. They must have seen something that I hadn't seen at the time, because computers were all the rage, and I was like, IT. And they said, no, that's not you. And I look back now and I realize they were 101% correct.
Nice.
So they channeled me into the marketing space, and I've gratefully been able to grow in it and discovered that it's my place.
Okay, but what about when it comes to, you do voiceovers as well?
Do voiceovers,
so in that line, I mean, we've seen you MC as well, you know, events, even for adverts and so on and so forth. How did you get into that line of work?
Oof, that's a long story. So I first MC'd an event in 1987.
Oh,
Yeah,
I wasn't even born.
Exactly. I was about to say,
I was not
even know anything
No,
about 1987?
no,
Yeah,
not at all.
I was in grade 7 at the time. I'm not as young as I look. And I MC'd the school end-of-year concert. My headmistress, well, evidently people were seeing something in me that I couldn't see myself, and she said to me, you're going to be MC. And I stood in front of the entire school and all the parents, and that was my first foray into standing on the stage. And it felt good. It felt like home. But over time, I didn't really utilize that until I grew a lot older, and I was part of a church choir, and before a song came on, I would stand up and introduce the song and give a bit of a short exhortation. And that's what started to hone my skills. With regards to voiceovers, that happened almost like the proverbial phoenix rising from the ashes. When Radio Phoenix burnt down, they put out a call for people who they wanted to do voice work and also be on-air presenters. And my then girlfriend, now wife, called me up and said, hey, my brothers said they heard an advert, and they said, whatever guy is on, you know, but broadcaster's voice figure, maybe you can try out for that. And I did, and that was my first expedition into the wonderful world of voiceovers. So I worked at Radio Phoenix as a volunteer and volunteer presenter for an entire year, and that put me in access to equipment that I otherwise wouldn't have had access to, and also learning the ins and outs from people who had been in the industry for a long period of time. And like I said, I'm a student. So you tell me something once, I'll absorb it and learn to apply it. And that's how, over time, I started to grow in that space.
Awesome. You are the CEO of FAIRA Communications.
That is correct.
I saw something like from FAIRA Eastern Province?
Lusaka
Province.
Yes.
Is that deliberate? I want to find out, first of all, you've worked in the corporate industry for quite some time.
Yes.
Head of this, head of that, head of this. And now the branching off to start your own thing.
Yes.
I've heard people say that you can still flourish working for somebody else.
Yes.
I've heard you say that for as long as it is in line with your purpose, you can still work. You don't need to branch off.
Correct.
But for you, why did you branch off?
I needed to find out if I could do something on my own. So it was a challenge. It's relatively, I wouldn't say easy, but it's a safer option to stay in the confines of a defined space where companies got brand guidelines, they've got KPIs that they give you on a weekly or monthly basis, and it's pretty straightforward. You know what your achievements look like, and even if you don't, until you really mess up completely, you can basically get away with just coasting along, and you're guaranteed at the end of the month you're going to have a salary and all. But I said to myself, what will it take to actually step out there and start to build something for yourself? And that was the challenge, and it was a challenge that I had placed on myself and said, before I turn 40, I need to step out there, because I knew once I hit 40, I would have been comfortable. I wasn't going anywhere. So
at what age did you venture out?
I stepped out in 2014.
Okay.
Yeah, that was 6 years ago. Okay. So I was just about to breach 40, and I said, let me step out and see what's out there. And I said to myself, if it doesn't work out, hey, at least I tried. But thank God it has worked out. So I'm in a space where I'm really comfortable. I'm a very spontaneous individual, so also the confines of being in a corporate setting felt a bit like a straitjacket at some point. I needed to get into a space where I can call my shots and dictate what pace I want to go at and be able to say yes or no to certain jobs. And that's the space I'm in now, so I'm loving it.
Great, but the Fera, why that?
That's home.
Okay.
That's home. I hail from Fera district.
Okay.
Yes, I'm Chikunda from Puga's village in Fera. So that's home.
Interesting.
And so the story behind Fera Communications is, aside from it being home, it's a very significant spot in Zambia's geography. It's the confluence of the Luangwa and the Zambezi rivers, and that's why our logo is actually the Zambezi and the Luangwa rivers. But aside from that, it's also an acronym for fresh, energetic, innovative, relevant, and actionable communications.
Awesome.
Oh, nice. I want more details when it comes to Fera. What is it about? What do you do? And what are some of the challenges you faced, stepping out from the corporate world where it was very comfortable, like you said, and a lot of people knew you for certain brands and so on and so forth, and then you had to go and you were doing this.
All right. So the question isn't what do we do, it's what don't we do. We haven't boxed ourselves in and said we're an ad agency or we are a PR agency or a social media management agency. If you need to communicate, we'll find the right fit for you.
Okay.
So if that entails us producing video content for you, we'll pull that off. If it entails arranging a radio interview for you, we'll do that for you. If it entails us getting someone to influence for your brand, we'll get that going for you. So we effectively adapt to whatever it is that our client and customer needs, and also their budget, and also the effectiveness of the messaging that they want to put out there. So we're a corporate communications solutions provider. To say we are boxed into one specific form of corporate communications would be restricting our capabilities, and we like to say we offer bespoke services, regardless of what that might be. The challenges that we're faced were obviously getting out into a market where you've been on the other side of the desk. But I'm grateful for the fact that the philosophy of not burning bridges is one that I embrace quite closely. And so the very first customers and clients who signed up are organizations that I'd worked for before.
Ah, okay.
And so the bridges weren't burnt. I left in good terms, did what I needed to do. They knew what my capabilities were. And to this day, I can walk into any of my former employers' premises and say, is there any work that we need to do? And they'll be, oh, yes, come on through. You know the brand back to front. So we don't need to start training someone and teaching them what we stand for. You already know that. So where can you take us with what you've got here? And so that's been the success story of Fera Communications.
Nice.
Awesome. The accent. First time I heard you at the Kakulipa event, I was like, maybe he was raised in Britain or something. Or passed through. I later learned that British teachers, you've passed through British teachers. So you're something like a rich kid.
Far from it. So before we even get to the teachers, I was raised by two teachers. Okay. Both my parents, my late dad and my mom, are teachers. So you spoke English correctly in the house before you exited. So the communications started from a scenario where if you did something wrong, you needed to write an exculpatory letter.
Wow, in the house?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, and if your grammar was off, you were getting whipped.
Wow.
So as time went on and skill sets improved, you got to a place where you said, you know what, I can write that letter easily. And sometimes you would draft the letter in advance, go off and do something really stupid, knowing that when you come back down, can we have a letter? Oh, sure. You know, pretend you're writing it then and hand it over. It's just a very good letter. Okay, you're off the hook. And it's like, yes. So it was either toe the line or learn how to write well. I chose to learn how to write well. And that was the saving grace. But then thereafter, I mean, they made great sacrifices. They were both civil servants, but made great sacrifices and said, the one thing we can give you is a good education and a good foundation. If we start you off right, wherever you go from here on in, is entirely up to you. But we will have given you enough of a footing to know that the world is yours to explore and yours to capture. Yeah.
So you passed through international school?
I was at Nkwazi Primary School, and yes, my teachers were predominantly British.
Awesome. So that's why they contributed to the accent.
They did. I mean, they told you how to say the words right.
Yeah.
And you didn't just go off and speak loose English. No, we don't say that. And when you got home, you'd be told things like, no, we're not paying this much money for you to be speaking funny English. So, yeah, they were sticklers for strictness at home and at school. So those have contributed greatly.
Great.
There are a lot of people that would want to work with you or would have wanted you to do like voiceovers, but a lot of people come out and think, no, he's too expensive. No, what? My question though is, how have you managed to balance and know which jobs you want to do, you know, and get to a point where you can even be like, no, this is too little money. This is too right. Even as you were coming up in communications, in voiceovers and so on, you started off volunteering. Yes. So where did you get to that point, and how did you even, you know, set the bar when it comes to issues like that?
So knowing when you can bill stems from knowing that you've paid your dues. So I paid my dues as a volunteer. And now, as a volunteer, the script is put in front of you. You're not getting paid for it, but you're going to put in the work. You do what you need to do, read out the script as it should be, and it gets done. So, as most radio and TV stations know, there's a lot of reciprocal trade that happens. So, such and such a tire company will provide tires for the entire fleet of vehicles in exchange for advertising for X number of days or X number of months. That script is not getting paid for because it's been a deal that's been bartered by the marketing department. So most of the guys who I worked with, the DJs would know. They would find that, no, don't touch that. But guess who would get those scripts? Yours truly. I had no issues with that because I was learning. Yeah. And for me, it was a learning experience. Yeah. I knew my day would come. And it did, because off of one of those reciprocal deals, someone contacted me and said, are you the person who did the voice for such and such a liner on this station? I said, yes, that was me. I said, great, we have something for you. And that was the start of my voiceover journey. And I did voice work as an audition initially for a telecoms company. And that then became a consistent source of work, because on a monthly basis they were growing and they needed to put out adverts for specials and all sorts of other activities. And evolved with that and learned the ropes, and it became better with time. As with most things, practice makes improvement. And so that's how we grew. You asked about costing. If you want a voice that will get stuff done for you, you should be willing to pay the price. So I don't think we're that pricey. If you compare the Zambian market and even just the South African market, we're extremely reasonable out here. And the reason being, for us, it's a once-off payment in most cases. You do the voiceover, you get paid, and that's it. And this company can use your voice for as long as they see fit, for perpetuity if they so wish. Whereas in the South African market, it's usage that earns you the money. So the voiceover, the fee is negligible in comparison to what you earn each time the advert runs. So usage fees are what actually earn you the big bucks out there. We haven't yet got there. The market is small and you appreciate that. But at the same time, don't sell yourself short. And also don't be associated with each and every brand that shows up. You know, you can't move from Chimtengo and Sons to a blue chip company all in the same breath. So be selective about where you want to associate your brand.
Awesome. Still watching Millennium Kwacha, your first and only business breakfast show, discussing marketing and building brands with Kamiza Chikola, who is one of the marketing gurus in the industry. He's using the word guru, but yes, we know he's a guru. In case you have a question for him, please drop. It's coming to you live from our Namwinga studios right here in the capital city, Lusaka. Also streaming live both on Facebook as well as YouTube. This is an opportunity to ask questions. These are not people you see every
day or have access to. Yeah. I know, right? It's so not all the time. Next time he's going to be charging.
Bring the questions. Free consultancy right here. We'll go on a short break. We have so much to discuss with this guru after this.
It is packaged to perfection, trending topics that we will be discussing to make sure you know exactly what's happening in the world of social media and, of course, our very own country.
Exactly. We don't just limit ourselves to the country, but we also move across the borders with the best in international news, policy making. We also bring experts to bring to you right information right here on The Breakfast Show.
And if you've got questions, we got you covered too. Like we said, we're on Facebook, so comment, leave your questions. We will be able to answer them. And if we can, trust me, we're going to get somebody that can.
Yeah, join us every day, Monday to Saturday.
It's Constance and Paul.
Oh, Paul and Constance.
No, definitely Constance and Paul.
Paul and Constance.
Definitely Constance.
Paul and Constance. 7 to 9.
Yeah, you gotta hustle. You can't be at the same location and with the same behavior. You got when you want to change the behavior, you at least change the location.
One, you need to be determined. You need to be disciplined and focused.
The business is something that you are able, at the end of the day, it's giving you something, profit. What do? Saturday we have a game. I don't have eggs, right? At home. We go there, we win. They'll give me maybe a 50 or 100 kwacha. Then I'll benefit out of that.
Only on Millennium TV. We miss business.
You are still watching Millennium Kwacha, your first and your favorite business breakfast show. I am your host, Constance Namwinga, and of course, I'm with my co-host, Paul Shingongo, and we are talking to what Paul keeps insisting is a marketing guru. Not that I don't agree, trust, I do, but he himself, he says no. No, he's not a guru, he's a student, is what he's calling himself. We're talking to Mr. Kamiza Chikola. Now, I would want to know, though, we have this attitude in Zambia where when you know a person, you know, you want to call them to help you out for free, you know. And, and you know, once your name was out there, like, Kamiza Chikola is the one that did for this telecommunications and did for this, what. I'm pretty sure you had a lot of friends coming to, I need you to do a voiceover, I need you to do this advert. How did you now start getting to a point where you're like, no, if you're not paying, I'm not doing this. And especially when it comes to, you know, friends, church mates, and family.
Okay, so it's a very delicate balancing act. Whilst you want to ensure that you earn off of every job you do, you've also got to give back.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my mentors told me in no uncertain terms, just to remind yourself that there was a time when there was nothing coming through, and that people were also in need of your help and your service. Each quarter, without exception, find a bit of pro bono work to do. So without exception, I've maintained that philosophy, and each quarter, there's some work that I will do for free. I won't say which work is for free, but and when you do that work, don't go off and do it and make it obvious that you're doing it for free.
Mm-hmm.
Give 101%, do the same quality of work that you would do for a paying job, But it's also important to just remind you that there are people who need your help, and you also were helped at some point, and it's important to be able to pass that on. So blessings are passed forward. So I still do quite a bit of pro bono work, but by and large, there are bills to be paid. So it can't be a repeat job. Hey, but what goes around comes back around. And you get people who come through for you and do free work for you because you helped out with such and such a client, or so-and-so needed your help, and you jumped in and said, hey, thanks for the assist. So what can I do to help you? And so it goes full circle.
Okay.
And it's not a loss, and it's not an exercise in futility. It actually does give you the benefit of you being able to withdraw from that account that you've deposited into. So I still do quite a bit of free work, but not too much.
Awesome. I would want to find out, one of the challenges I know people have, especially in scaling up in their career, is consistency.
Right.
How have you managed? What principles have you used to ensure that you remain relevant when people mention your name? Like, okay, that's a big name in the industry.
Right.
How have you managed that?
Right. So people throw the word brand around quite a bit. Brand is basically your reputation. So to remain relevant, you need to have people know that when they call on you to do work, they know exactly what to expect. You can't afford to have an off day. You can't afford to go off and say, nah, today I'm feeling a bit under the weather. So, no, you don't have that luxury. You need to be able to compartmentalize to a point where you leave whatever is giving you grief in a locker and say, I'll be back for you in a while. I've got work to do.
Yeah, I love
you
that.
show up
each
and every time. Your client isn't paying you premium rate to show up and say, I know I've got a bit of a problem. No. They're not paying you for your excuses. Another mentor said to me, the difference between an amateur and a professional isn't that one is getting paid and the other isn't. The difference is the professional doesn't make excuses. He doesn't bring his baggage to the fight or to the event. He shows up. And so that's the secret to longevity in this business. When people mention your name, they know, oh, this guy is consistent. You won't go off and say something that's off color. He's not going to embarrass our brand. He's not going to go off and embarrass our guests. When he stands on that stage, he's going to do a professional job. He will deliver according to the brief, and he won't go off tangent and off script. He will deliver what we know him to do. Yeah, so that's the secret.
Awesome. I feel like you're talking to me.
And all right, I'm learning. I'm here taking notes. Like, okay.
Always show up.
I will send you the invoice.
Lovely. I also know, I'm very passionate about family life. I also know the role that your wife has played in ensuring that you are where you are today. I learned that there was a time she was doing her master's in the UK. Even when you are resigning, you had to call her, and she gave you the go-ahead.
Yes.
Now, there's a statement you mentioned which caught my attention. You said something, you said, for as long as you have support from your spouse, you can conquer the world.
100%.
What is the relevance of that? Because sometimes, truthfully speaking, sometimes your spouse might not see the way you would see. Sometimes they may be short-sighted. Sometimes they may not have a proper perspective and may be stopping you from venture. So if you are relying on their voice, sometimes they may derail you. Yeah, I would want your comment on that. Balancing, knowing that not every spouse also understands your journey.
Okay. Yeah. So the person who's carrying the vision has the obligation of selling that vision to their spouse. And it's not a straightforward job. It's not a straightforward activity. But you've got to get to a place where you're seeing from the same hymn book. And you understand what the end goal and the objective is, the definition of what success will be in your lives. But it takes you being able to sell that to a point where the person sees what you see in your mind's eye, and it becomes their reality, and they say, oh, okay, so that's what we're heading for. If you're secretive about what you do, you're not going to get to that destination, because I would be worried about following a person who hasn't told me where we're going. Just says, jump in the car, let's go. Where are we going? I don't know, but we're going. Doesn't make any sense. So have you dreamt enough with enough detail to be able to tell a person, when we're successful, this is what it will look like. We will own the following, we will be able to do this and that, and we'll be able to manage the following finances because we will have this many clients on our books, and they buy into that. So getting your spouse to buy into your vision is very critical. And it takes you being able to sell your story to perfection. What is it that you see in your mind's eye in great detail? We're talking minuscule detail. The office will be blue, black, and gray, and we will have, and once a person starts to see your vision, they'll follow you just about anywhere. But if you're visionless and just say, I'm stepping out of my job, okay, to do what? I don't know, but we'll figure it out. Hang on a second, you're going to kill us here, eh? We're supposed to be a tag team, and if you're stepping out and you have no clue what you're stepping out into, how do I follow you? So it's critical that your vision is clearly defined. And even as you present it to your spouse or your partner, the person you're doing life with, you then present it in a fashion that they understand fully what you also understand. And passion is infectious. And if you're not passionate about it, you can't expect your spouse to be passionate about it. They will jump on board feeding off of the passion that you have. And then there are days when things switch and you're drained, and because they've caught the passion, they're like, no, we're bigger and better than this, let's go. And that's where you really need the support of a cheerleader, because there are bad days. Days where it's rough and the world's got you in a headlock, and you just need someone who tell you, no, don't worry, breathe, we're okay. It's not as bad as you think it is. We actually have this, and we'll coast along. We're okay, it'll take us to that point, and then we'll pick up again. So it is essential to have the right partner in your corner.
Awesome. Awesome.
Okay, so now today we're talking about building a brand, and how do you build a brand that will be successful, build a brand that will, where when somebody calls you, they're calling you a guru. In that vein, what would you say are some of the principles that you have used or that you have practiced to build the brand that you are?
I got the benefit of working for various organizations that are jealous about their brand. They guard their brand to a point that you will get a disciplinary letter for not following brand guidelines, because they understand the value of who they are. And until you show yourself that level of respect, you can't expect that respect to come through from people. So it takes you defining who you are and staying true and consistent to what you've defined and presented to the world. If you go off and say, I am a family man, and the next thing you know, people are seeing you all over the place doing crazy things, they're like, hang on a second, what you're saying and what you're doing aren't matching. So it takes sacrifice. If you're going to be premium in the industry or the market, it will require that you do a bit of a disappearing act. You can't be commonplace. You can't be everywhere doing everything with everyone all the time. Then you become common. And once that happens, you're like, oh, no, we can meet this chap any day. So, no, there's nothing to see here. No, he's always everywhere. But if there's a scarcity to you, that allows you to be able to show up. And when you show up, people are like, oh, great, it's this guy. Or it's this brand. It's this particular entity that's shown up. That's what makes a world of difference. But consistency, I cannot overemphasize consistency. Once you've defined who you are in the industry, you've got to stay true to that. You have got to stay true to that. Are you that person who is known for showing up on time and showing up prepared and ready and making phone calls in advance to learn as much as you can about an organization? I mean, one of my contractual obligations when someone signs me up to do an event, for example, is I need to have a sit down with someone who knows what the event is all about and also understands what this company represents, so that I get a sense of it and I get immersed into great detail, so that even when I'm standing on stage talking about the brand, I know this brand back to front, inside out, and I'm not fumbling. and I'm feeding off of information that's coming through from different speakers and different activities that are lined up on the program for that day. But it's about consistency. And when someone pays a premium rate for you to come and MC the event, you can't expect you to call and say, oh, sorry, I'm running a bit late. Just start without me. That's unacceptable. You owe it to yourself. I say this, and I think we learn from our own mistakes. And in all of my years of MCing, I've been late for one event. It was in Kitwe, and the client had paid me in advance. I took off from Lusaka, and unbeknownst to me, there was a serious storm in Kapiri that slowed me down. Picked up speed, ended up being caught at a speed trap, and all this was eating into time. And then I got into Kitwe, and roadworks were being undertaken. And I got lost because the detour took me to a completely different place, and I wasn't too familiar with the area we were going to. The event started, and they had to have someone stand in for me, which is unacceptable. So I got there, and I foolishly hadn't changed into my work clothes. I was traveling in a t-shirt and a pair of jeans. I changed in the car park because there was no time to go off into a hotel room and change and spruce up. I combed my hair and ran through, went to the event, took over. As soon as the event ended, this is where consistency fits in, and the reputation that you've built for yourself. I went to see the managing director of the organization and apologized profusely. And I said to him, as a sign of my remorse for what's happened and me embarrassing your brand, I will not take payment for this, so I'll be refunding every way that you've paid, and this will burn my pocket, but it's okay. And he kindly and graciously said, no, these things happen, don't let it happen again, but you salvaged what you could when you came through, but we won't accept you not being paid for this. You've done the work. Yeah, there was a hiccup at the beginning, but you need to have a level of integrity where you say, if I've messed up, I will confess and I'll own that mess, and not say, no, but hey, these things happen. You know, hey, how was I to know that road? No. That's got nothing to do with the client. You are late. Make good on it. Own that mess. And so, yeah, if you do mess up, fess up.
Yeah. This is very challenging, actually, because
Very much. And I hate correction.
We like justifying some of the mistakes that we make, especially in the professional world. Yeah. And this just sinks in and very helpful. You describe yourself as an offloader, not a train. I want a distinction between the two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it all stems from personalities. Like I said, I'm very spontaneous. I like to go off the beaten track and figure out what's going on and learn on the go. I will jump out of a plane without a parachute, and I'll figure it out on the way somehow. There are people who, nothing wrong with that, but there are also people who are more comfortable when they know exactly where they're going, and they've got a certain route and path that they want to follow. That's cool. We're different, we're built differently. I'm an eternal optimist. So I always believe it'll work out. Somehow it'll work out. Even when it's looking completely beaten down and it's like, no, this is the dumps, this is it, this is the end. I was like, there's still hope. There's a glimmer of hope. As long as there's that hope, it'll work out. But that's me. So I'm quite comfortable going on a spontaneous adventure or a spontaneous activity or a path and venturing into something that I have no clue about, with the sound belief that I will learn enough as we go along to be able to make it worthwhile. So that's why I call myself an off-roader. I go off the beaten track. I don't do things in a standard way, but I get the objective done. So the end goal is what's required. It can be taxing on people who you're working with, because I expect that if I'm working with someone, they'll trust me enough to let me run free. No, okay, so where do you want to go? We want to get to point B. Okay, cool. Leave the rest to me, and I'll figure it out for you. But it takes having worked with me to understand, okay, he knows what he's doing. He'll figure it out. It caused quite a bit of strife in a few organizations I worked in until we started to understand each other with my superiors. Because they would say one thing and then say, but it's not working. I was like, no, don't worry, I'm on top of it. No, but we're not seeing any movement. I said, trust me. This will take a couple of hours to get sorted out. It's done. No, but I'm getting very concerned here. Then you deliver and like, but how do you pull that off? You know, you're stressing me. No, but just trust me. We're good. So that's what makes me me, I guess.
If you are talking, I know there are young professionals that are watching, just like me, would want to get to where you are. What are some of the mistakes that you've made that you wouldn't want someone aspiring to get to where you are to repeat?
I think being true to yourself is critical. For the longest time, I tried to be a conformist. Okay, so conforming for the sake of making sure that, hey, you don't lose out on your salary and all. But I think if you believe in something enough, dive into it and stand up for what you know is true. But be ready to back it up. Don't just go off and be a rabble-rouser for the sake of it. Be that person who says, hang on, here are my facts, and they're lined up. And I think if there was a failing on my part, it was being able to convert a gut feel into facts which people could look at and say, oh, okay, so that's why he's got this feeling about it. I go a lot on gut feel, and there are things that just wouldn't sit right. You know what? I'm not feeling this. Why not? I just don't feel it. But in hindsight, I should have taken the time to sit down and say, okay, so here are all the possible things that might not work based on this. And I have a hunch that if we go this route, these are things that will work out. But I would pretty much go in there again, hoping that they'll trust me enough to just say, oh, cool, he said it won't work, so let's go with what he said. And that caused quite a bit of friction in a few organizations. So it's not wise to go off and just think everybody will understand what you're thinking off the bat. So invest in being able to present your case and learn the subtle art of diplomacy. So I'm a bit of a straight shooter, and I think if looking back, I said some things I shouldn't have said in the fashion I said them. I still stand by what I said, but I could have presented that better, you know, because nobody wants to feel challenged. You can't be sitting in a boardroom and you've got people who feel they're your superiors. You just say, nah, that won't work. You feel, they begin to feel, okay, so this character thinks he's better than we are with all of our vast years of experience. Whereas in hindsight, a nice subtle chat away from the public eye where you say, no, listen, here's my take on it, and let me explain what I'm thinking, would probably have brought me a lot more allies than it did then.
Awesome.
Okay, we're in the closing minutes. I would want to know what the biggest lesson you've learned in being what you are, like one that you know you look back and be that, you know, you can look back and say that's what I learned. And then I'd also want you to tell us what you would want to be. What is your legacy? What would you want to be remembered for?
Okay. Biggest lesson, that would probably be when you do something, do it with all your strength. Yeah, give it 100% each and every time. I learned that late, and rather than drag your feet, go off and just give it 101% each and every time. And that's the key that will unlock your greatness. So for as long as you give 100% each and every time, people will tell. It's easy to tell when a person's just there to fill a space and to be a screensaver. Okay, this person's not engaged, this person's not passionate, they're not really into what they're doing. But once you get into a space where you say, yep, I'm going to give it 100% each and every time I have an opportunity, I think the lesson to be learned there would probably be embrace each opportunity and treat it like it might be the very last time you get a chance to do so. Because one day you'll be right. There will be a day when you'll do something for the very last time on the face of this earth. And the last thing you want is to be remembered for a shoddy delivery. The last time, like, yeah, you know, I think something was really wrong. Because, yeah, the last time something was wrong. But give it 101% each time. Leave it all out there. What are you saving it for? You know, leave it all out there. And if there's a legacy I would like to be remembered for, I think it's multi-pronged, but I would like to be remembered as a person who stood up for what he believed in, and a person who wasn't selective on whom to give his respect to. Each and every person starts out with the same measure of respect, and people increase that level of respect or they reduce it based on their actions and their activities. But I think I try as much as I possibly can to be respectful to people regardless of their age, their gender, or their standing or position in life. I like to be that person who is approachable. And I think I would like to be remembered as the person who was smiling more than I was angry.
Nice, nice.
Thank you so much. So it's been a table of lessons.
Too much.
I'm glad to hear that.
After this, I'm still going to watch the video again and assimilate more.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much for coming through Millennium Kwacha.
Thank you for having me. It's been absolutely wonderful. It's amazing how the time has flown.
Yeah.
Truly grateful for this opportunity.
I know this information you've offloaded. If there was an invoice attached, I'll be like, don't call us. We'll
call you. We'll get back to you.
We're waiting for a little something.
Yeah. But thank you so much for having the time.
Thank you very much. Truly grateful.
Wealth of wisdom on us on Breakfast Show.
Much appreciated. Great.
This is where we wrap up today's edition of Millennium Kwacha. We're discussing marketing and, of course, building brands, a successful brand, with the marketing guru, Mr. Kamiza Chikula, who has kept refusing that he's a guru. But yes, that's just being humble. He's a guru. We all know that. We're back again tomorrow, Saturday, my favorite day of the week. Entertainment, of course, we talk all things entertainment tomorrow. 7 to 9, Shingongo is my name, of course, on behalf of the entire production, Constance, and our guru in the house, Mr. Kamiza Chikula. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow at 7 a.m.
Nice.
Millennium TV. Millennium TV. We mean business. Millennium TV. Millennium TV. We mean business.